County, and I'm trying to give you something new. First of all, I appreciate that we all have something in common. We're all running this marathon together tonight, and I have the same respect for you that I would have out running a marathon with anybody. It's something you all have in common that's a little different. But my comments are basically procedural. Dominion has done all of us a great disservice, and you can kind of see that by tonight because their application is premature. FERC has made no decision whether this pipeline is going to be built or not. There's great doubt that this pipeline is ever going to get permitted by a federal agency and that this will ever get built at all, and therefore the steps by which that decision is made have not yet come to pass. The National Environmental Policy Act says that the purpose and need for this project needs to be evaluated and solidified. That has yet to happen. The DEIS that has been submitted by Atlantic Coast Pipeline LLC in the last week does not have any analysis of purpose and need. They say that that will be provided in the final. The public will have no opportunity to comment on that or respond to it. The environmental impacts, similarly, have not been totally delineated and specified. Requests by the EPA, the U.S. Forest Service, and the Bureau of Land Management on specific environmental impacts to this pipeline at all, which have not yet been submitted, were requested that they be submitted in time for comment. That hasn't happened, and so what FERC has said, they're going to defer all of these things until later. You have the ability to defer your decision until all that information is in. Dominion should not be applying for anything until it's going to happen. To do it ahead of time creates a situation where insufficient information is available to make decisions. Y'all are aware that the very first that we ever heard about this pipeline in Buckingham County, and I count myself among those people, was when the Board of Supervisors passed a resolution in favor of it, when none of the information had been available to anybody about this that we now have available, and we still don't have all the information we need to be able to do this. The other thing that has to be specified is alternatives, which has to do not just for the purpose and need of this, but other ways that whatever needs there are can be met besides this pipeline. So what I'm submitting to you is that I'm really grateful for Dominion, not because they did this prematurely, but because they created a forum for something like this to happen so that you can have all this information. And also the fact that before the 2.5 years passed that this has gone over, I probably had a handful of friends in Nelson County. Now I have dozens of them. And I'm very grateful to each and every one of them because they are some of the best people that I know. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Everybody who's still here tonight, my name's Lee White. I currently live in Charlottesville. You might tell by the accent I'm not from these parts. I hail from England, and I've spent the last 2 years living in Charlottesville. And I've spent the last 4 months coming down here to Buckingham County. And I haven't spoken. This is the first time I've actually got up here and spoke. It was at every single planning commission hearing, listening, just watching, observing. But why am I here? Why would somebody like myself want to come here? Someone who's just moved here to this country 2 years ago, and my wife and 4 children. Why would I care? Why would I care about these people here? Their lives are on the line. We saw the video of I've got 4 children. If I was living in Union Hill and I saw that video, they could say whatever they want about how safe this thing is. The video showed it from that compressor station, that child with blood running down its nose. That's going to happen here. They can say whatever they want to say. It's out there. You can Google this stuff online. You can find it all. It's there. It exists. Are you going to be those people that are going to be responsible for those folks and their grandchildren, their children, their lives, all because of profit? Because of corporate profit. That's what this is all about. I just ask you to do what they're asking you to do. I don't care how many people. I know you don't care what I think, because why would you? I'm from Charlottesville. I live in Charlottesville. I'm not from Buckingham. It doesn't matter how many people call and say that they're for this pipeline if they're not directly impacted. If they don't live in Union Hill, it's irrelevant what they think. It's irrelevant what I think. Because the only people who are going to be impacted by this thing are the folks who are going to be impacted by the toxic stuff that they'll deny, Dominion will deny that exists, but we know it's real. We know it's real. And the one thing I want to address before my time is up, something's been mentioned here tonight, is just the wrongdoing that's going on here. And I want to kind of put this out there because what's coming this way. It's been mentioned about variety shades, and this piece of parcel of land, this 68 acres that was purchased by Dominion for 2.5 million, 10 times above the market rate, folks, 10 times. And it was purchased, the people who took that 2.5 million were descendants of the owners of that former plantation. And they're currently planning a family gathering in Florida later this year with that 2.5 million, all expenses paid. All expenses paid reunion for that family who received that money, that blood money from the former plantation, from tobacco owners who were traveling overseas to sell that stuff, to make their fortune. So I'll ask you to think about these folks, to think about what we're doing here. What are we doing? And the one final thing, through the work that I do, I'm connected with the solar industry. When we have people talking about that we need natural gas, it's an absolute lie. We don't need it. Solar right now is an exponential technology. It is increasing don't fall every 2 years. We do not need natural gas. Simple as that. All right. Thanks a lot.
I am here from Yokerville, but I actually am more from Northern Virginia. But where I'm from doesn't really matter. What really matters here is the fact that it's been mentioned that there are future generations at stake here. And I think, that's very obvious. But one of the other things is that we were all born into a situation where we were dependent on fossil fuels. But that doesn't mean that we have to continue to live in that way. Yes, did we all drive here except for one person? Of course. But that was because we live in an infrastructure that requires us to do so in order to make by, in order to even live. I want you to look at the seal of Buckingham and see that it is a seal of an agricultural county and it's not an industrial county. I don't know the history, and I am really in no place to make that argument whatsoever, but I do want you to know that it is up to you right now to determine how much you're going to affect not just Buckingham, but how much you're going to be complicit in the entire environmental process. We are currently pillaging our planet. It's not a sustainable practice. This is not sustainable. This isn't just about us. It is about our people. It is about humanity, and it is about every other species on this planet. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and honored members of the board. My name is Kirk Bowers. I'm a licensed professional engineer, over 30 years experience. I'm also the Pipelines campaign coordinator for the Sierra Club, and I speak on behalf of our 16,000 members in the state. You've seen me here before, I think. First of all, you've heard a lot of truths tonight, and I hope you will pay attention and regard the citizens of your county as speaking the truths. What I'm going to say is that the proposed compressor station is legally ineligible for a special use permit in District A1. Dominion is attempting to shoehorn the project as a public utility booster or relay station, but the compressor station is not a public utility according to common law or the Virginia Code. Issuing the special use permit will constitute a violation of Virginia law. In addition, the proposed compressor station runs contrary to the purposes of District A1, which includes preserving and promoting rural land uses. It would be a significant setback to the district's efforts to preserve farm and forest lands. It also runs contrary to the objectives enumerated in the Buckingham County Comprehensive Plan, including maintaining the rural character of the county. I did one project in Oklahoma City many years ago, a pipeline construction project. It was a hard project. It was in flat land. The one thing I remember of that project is that one of our workers was killed because he ran into the gas pipeline and it exploded and he burned to death. I have never forgotten that. That's what can happen, and that's what will happen. eventually. Been around construction for many, many years. I've seen construction, and can tell you that the Atlantic Coast Pipeline is going to be extremely challenging to build across these steep mountains. Another thing they forgot to tell you is that we've done economic cost studies on the pipelines, and this is my third pipeline that I'm working on. The average cost to each county we found is $1 billion over the life of the project. That includes lost property values and ecosystem services. Last, the handwriting is on the wall. Natural gas only has about 10 or 15 years left, and that's it, because market forces are taking over now, and they will outcompete natural gas.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner from Nelson County. You guys are in a really, really tough spot. I really sympathize with you. You're getting leaned on here and here, in the mail, on the streets. But it's obvious there's a tremendous amount at risk. And I think everyone staying up this late is evidence of that, people coming from all around. I moved to Virginia by choice because I wanted peace and quiet. It's not Buckingham I live in, but I feel that it's worth preserving. So I hope you do your homework. When I've looked online at the risks of pipelines, compressor stations, fracking, all I see is negative. I think I'd be really hard pressed to see anything that said it's safe, we should all do this. It's across the board a disaster. So I just really hope you take your time. I hope you ultimately say no for not just Buckingham, for the region, for the planet. So thank you for your consideration.
I'm Magruder, and I'm from Richmond, Virginia. Yes, I said I'm from Richmond, Virginia, because whatever y'all decide tonight, if y'all decide to build this compressor station, it's going to affect us back east. So I have a vested interest in seeing what happens with the compressor station. So I'm here to support those who oppose this pipeline. And I wanted to address a couple of points that were made earlier. There was somebody that came up here and said that that we all came here by using gas-powered automobiles. Now, there's a truth to that, but there's also a glaring flaw with the very system that we have when you hear a comment like that. Why is it that we are still dependent on fossil fuel sources to power our homes, to power our vehicles, when the resources to do those things were already put before us? For those who are here to support the pipeline, I want y'all to take this little bit of research home with you. Rudolph Diesel, the person who invented the diesel engine, which bears his namesake, and even Henry Ford, invented their cars and their engines to run off of fuel sources like vegetable juices and fruit juices and even marijuana. The state just recently legalized marijuana for industrial production, industrial hemp production. This is something that Buckingham County could be taking advantage of. So why not? And so I want everybody to have this understanding. Everybody's already came up here and said why they oppose it. I don't need to reiterate this to y'all. But I will say this. When y'all were voted in, and y'all put your hand on that Bible, and y'all swore to uphold the Constitution of the state of Virginia and the United States, and to execute your duties, so help you God, you also took an oath to stop this pipeline. Why? Because it is your duty to protect the people of this, not only this county, but people like myself who live in Richmond, Virginia, and all areas back east, including the Hampton Roads area. And for you to approve this pipeline would to make y'all derelict in y'all's duty, and if y'all it'll be worth everybody coming up against y'all and having y'all voted out of office if y'all choose to approve this pipeline. And now finally, Mr. Chambers, with all due respect, you said earlier that this is not a church service. You opened up this meeting in prayer. So you literally violated the First Amendment of the Constitution when you did that by basically exercising a religious practice in a government building. And like I said, I respect you, I respect all y'all for at least having the patience to listen to me, but that's something that you need to take into advisement.
Thank you for your time. So I'm Rebecca Keel. I'm a social worker in Richmond, Virginia. I've worked in various social service positions. So you all earlier heard from Ms. Carla Pickard, who is Dominion's External Affairs Manager. She has her degree in marketing. Ms. Carla, she's not an expert in compressor stations. She's not a resident of Buckingham County. She's not a scientist. She is an advertiser. You need to listen to the experts who are in the room and ask yourself the following questions. What was the defining moment that made you become a politician in Buckingham County? Do you consider yourself a helping professional? Did you grow up here? Is Dominion a corporation or a living, breathing person? Do your values align with public health and well-being? What are your children and grands learning about natural gas right now? If you ask them what was in their books at school, what would they say? What would you tell them if this project ended in a fire or an explosion? How would you tell them about the decision that you made? What would your high school or college biology professor say about this compressor station? What is your stake in the Atlantic Coast Pipeline? And finally, if you are a Christian, how would you explain your decision on Judgment Day? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Travis Williams. I'm a sociologist, an environmental sociologist. I teach university classes in the Richmond area. I'm not here representing any particular university tonight. I'm just representing myself. But firstly, I think everyone in the room, I think a lot of you have probably seen this, but you should check out the film. It's a 2-part series. It's called Gasland, Part 1 and Part 2. That's one thing I would recommend. I also wanted to say that in terms of pipelines, I think you've heard lots of facts and figures. I'm not really going to go through all of them, but one basic thing to keep in mind is that the compressor station is an industrial mega technology. It's a very large scale industrial project, and with projects that are this size, and again, I encourage also you all to Go Google gas leaks, gas explosions. You can do the research yourself. You don't need to listen to somebody tell you what to think. This information is out there, and I would encourage everyone to go and look at it. But when you begin projects like this, you kind of open yourself up, you open communities up to being treated very much like laboratories. Because of the scale that these projects are on, you can't really totally predict what the outcomes are. You can do little laboratory tests, but in reality, for mega projects like pipelines, compressor stations, it's always kind of, it's very experimental. It's sort of a trial and error thing. And it's never a question of if it's going to leak. It's just when it's going to leak, how bad is it going to leak, who's going to be impacted. This happens with all pipelines. There is no leak-proof pipeline. So you're automatically accepting some pollution. I'd also say that a lot of the resources you all have around here in this very beautiful area, it's valuable in and of itself. A lot of people that end up in areas like this, or appreciate areas like this, they like it because of the natural beauty. They like it because they're not necessarily around all of the noise and pollution that's associated with urban areas. So I think you have a really beautiful community and a beautiful area here that's very much worth protecting. And also, I think also in the James River around the Richmond area, one thing that's happening there is that Dominion's dumping toxic coal ash there. There's a whole trail of things that Dominion has left behind. And it's not so much that Dominion shouldn't exist, but in terms of where we are right now in 2017, this is not the infrastructure we should be investing in. Natural gas is not really a bridge. It sets down infrastructure that is not designed to handle clean energy. It's very much a setback. So I would really strongly encourage you all to deny the special use permit. Thank you.
My name is Benjamin Cunningham. I'm a resident of Afton, Virginia, in Nelson County. I come to you today because we have shared interests. You've all heard plenty about the health effects, plenty about the economics, and different accounts on what's true and what isn't, so I don't need to reiterate that. What I do want to tell you about is, so Dominion claims that this facility has layers of federal regulation that will ensure protection of the public to one degree or another, but which you can rely on. But what level of oversight and protection will Dominion retain should those federal regulations be removed? I'm not sure if you're aware, but the new recent head of the EPA, recently appointed by the new administration, if approved, he is someone who would love to slash those regulations. He is actually currently, Scott Pruitt is his name, suing the EPA over similar restrictive regulation on the oil and gas industry and on natural gas in Oklahoma, a place that is experiencing earthquakes because of gas production there. So, I mean, yeah. Furthermore, that really puts in, his stance on that really puts in jeopardy some of the environmental protection and public health protection that you all could rely on if you, that you would think you'd be relying on if you approve this prematurely. The draft environmental impact statement, as I trust you well know, has just come out, and its public comment period doesn't end until April. As others before me have said, they're trying to rush this thing so that y'all can go, so that whether it gets approved then, they can add, they can say, oh, well, y'all didn't say to do this, so we don't have to. Furthermore, my final point in all that is just to say, if they're saying we're going to adhere to the federal government's strictly restrictive legislation that will protect all of y'all, if that gets dashed in the 4 months, even before they, or in the next year, y'all are left holding the bag because they had you rush it. They didn't have you wait until a year from now when the pipeline could be approved or not approved entirely, and you'll be left with the consequences. So I just want to give you all that information to make your decision on. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Katie Wood. I am from Nelson County. I'm a landowner there. My family's been living there since it was part of Amherst County. And I'm here tonight. I really recognize and appreciate that you're sitting here listening to me when I'm not a Buckingham resident. But I recognize that this affects me and my family and the future of my family. I want to say that over Thanksgiving in Nelson, there was a wildfire that no one predicted, and it burned up a couple thousand acres on the side of a hill in my backyard, Sugarloaf Mountain. And I think about that, and I think about the woods here in Buckingham, and if something like that happened around a pipeline or a compressor station, would the emergency services here be ready to respond to that, to the degree of that emergency? And I'm also here tonight to say that the decision that you make here doesn't begin or end in Buckingham. Buckingham County is a community, but if you walk to the border, if you walk to the boundary, you're not going to see a line in the ground in the woods where Buckingham begins or ends. A decision that you make here affects the river that flows downstream. It affects what the wind carries east and south, and it affects, future generations. And a decision to move forward with this compressor station is a decision to continue in these footsteps that we've inherited in the fossil fuel industry. And right now, Dominion has a huge budget for renewable energy. Why is Buckingham seeing the continuation of the fossil fuel industry? Why is that being placed here? Why isn't the renewable initiatives of solar or wind farms being proposed here? That's an important question to ask. Why is Buckingham inheriting this really dangerous and unnecessary initiative? And I say unnecessary, I want to reiterate these things you've heard so many times tonight. The pipeline, they're saying that the natural gas demand in the Virginia Carolina communities is impelling this pipeline. It's not, there's evidence in the Synapse study by the Southern Environmental Law Center that you've seen that says natural gas is sufficient until 2030, which is long enough to get some of those renewables built here in these communities in the next couple of years. Thank you.